Welcome to Boating Tips Live with MarineMax, your weekly chat about boating products, service, safety, advice, and a whole lot more. Join the fun by submitting your boating questions answered on air by our knowledgeable captains. Without further ado, let's start the show.
Well, looks like we're live here, Nick. Got a little change of scenery today.
Yeah, I think we're doing it just like we have for coming up on 2 years now. Always changing, always trying to get better, provide a better experience. And today we are switched it up a little bit. We saw Jim McGowan's studio last week and we're so impressed by it that we had to go ahead and try to do our own thing. And we got new cameras, got new lights, really bright lights. So
got all the wheels behind the scenes spinning, and they're like, "Hey, we can do this. We can do that."
That'll do. Now we can look into the camera.
Should have told me to bring mine.
But that'll be cool, guys. So we've got episode of Boating Tips Live today. One of my favorite episodes that we do, where Keith and I just kind of shoot from the hip and talk about anything and everything under the sun, out on the water. Of course, these episodes rely heavily on you guys and asking us those questions. This week, we had our man behind the curtain go on Instagram and ask for your questions. So we've got all those questions right here. All you guys that took the poll on Instagram, we're going to get to those today as well. And anything else, we got a few other things that we can cover before. Well, I mean, not even before we get into the boating season, because boating season in Florida is well underway.
Yep. Tarpon bites underway. Mo, my sales manager here, he lives over on Clearwater Beach, and I know it's not boating, but they went over. He and his wife took a walk down the beach this weekend, and he said it was absolutely packed, like worse than spring break. I mean, just the beaches are just stacked up. So a lot of people out there getting outside and enjoying things now, so whether it's boating or going to the beach or just united by water, right? Just get out on the water and do something.
So we've got a question already came in here from Eve Mick Barnett. Greetings from North Miami, Florida.
Eve,
thanks for joining us. And she says, what is the best boat for a petite woman? Well, there's a few different ways we can answer that. Keith, I'm sure you've delivered your fair share of boats to petite women in your day. What do you think? What do you think?
Kayak, a stand-up paddleboard. I mean, any boat, right? I mean,
how many petite women do you see in your women on water classes driving a 40-foot boat?
Actually, more than you'd think. You know what? And that's actually a good point. A lot of times, it might be the husband works, let's say, and the wife's home with the kids, or she's out with her friends. That's one thing the women on water classes do, right? Get the ladies out on the water.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen it just as much as I do, that, you're out on the water running up and down the intercoastal on these weekdays and stuff like that. And you will see ladies out there by themselves or, with their girlfriends or their wives or, their kids. If you got a little eye-hand coordination, there's no reason in the world you can't run that boat yourself and go take the kids out tubing or take them skiing or wakeboarding or go fishing or whatever. It's definitely growing.
Yeah, I think the answer a lot of people might expect on that question is, hey, one boater, maybe not the biggest guy or girl, might expect us to say, hey, best boat for that is a 17 Montauk. Not saying it's not, but with that being said, you got the tools, you know how to use them. There's no reason to limit yourself on exactly what you can do, no matter who you are.
No, you end up getting a bigger boat and it's got a windlass. You're pushing a button, so you're not having to pull the anchor up yourself. So I mean, there's lots of options and ways of going about it. So petite, medium size, large, extra large, it doesn't matter, just get out there.
Before we get into some of our questions from Instagram, Keith, it looks like there's even a few more rolling in here on YouTube. I'm not monitoring Facebook right now. And looks like Ron Radcliffe says here, hi, captains from South Carolina. Ron, thanks for joining us, bud. Then we've got Rogue Viking that says Aquila 44 versus Aerocat 420 flybridge for the Great Loop. Not entirely familiar with the 420 Aero, but with Aquilas and the Great Loop, which is a lot of people might not know, it's pretty much a way for you to see a good part of the country all from your boat. And there's a multiple time guest here, not on Boating Tips Live, but I know that they've been on Boating Broadcast, and that's April and Larry Smith on One Eyed Dog. You can find them anywhere on Facebook, anywhere on YouTube, and they document their whole Great Loop experience on their Aquila 44. It's husband and wife team. They've got their dog. They go anywhere and everywhere, and I learn a lot from them, even though we're the dealer. I mean, they're living on that boat, and they're very, very boat savvy, liveaboard savvy, which is something that's completely different than probably a big percentage is used to on the water. And just those little tricks that you use to adjust from living on land to living on a boat, traveling on that boat, preparedness and stuff like that. And that's really cool. So I'm going to drop that in the comments right now. That's One Eye Dog. You can find them. I put it in YouTube, and they do great work. So it's real exciting. Tell them that Nick and Keith sent you.
Yeah. So that's one thing too, like with those guys, when they get on these getaways and stuff like that, the other people that can join in, you're a novice, you're a new boater, that, you learn all those tips and tricks from the experienced people, so like right now we got a trip going down in the Bahamas, they're looping around and coming back. And it's the first, there's seasoned veterans on that trip, and you got some newbies on there too. So, everybody, they're going to learn from those other people.
Yeah, and they all do their own little things as well. I've seen guys and girls tweak it up, and I find it really fun to learn from the people living on the boats, or not necessarily living on them, but spending a lot of time on them, stuff that, hey, like we might not think about when we're in a dealership setting.
Yep.
Just a lot of takeaways there. Looks like we got a good one for you here, Keith, something I know nothing about. We've got Ibrahim says, what are the best engines for a Sea Ray Sundancer 310? 2 diesel Yanmar engines, 315 horsepower each, or 2 Mercruiser engines, 350 horsepower each? You've probably delivered a lot of those. What are your thoughts on those 2 engine combinations?
I mean, I've delivered some of the diesel Yanmars, and they run really good. It's just your preference, I mean, whether you've got access to, if diesel's going to be more convenient for you. I think diesel's probably a little more expensive. I mean, you're on the sales part of it. Rather than
to buy one.
Rather than gas stern drive. There's not that much difference in horsepower. Either way, if you're a diesel Yanmar fan, go that route or stick with the Mercruiser. It's just personal preference, really.
You got diesel guys and gas guys. I find that a lot of automotive mechanics always, they'll like those inboard gas engines.
Sure. I mean, everybody's got their favorite, of course.
A few good ones on YouTube here. You got another one that says, I was wondering what you may use.
Facebook's not broadcasting, I don't think. Oh, is it? Okay. All right, go ahead.
We've got Frank Friend here on YouTube says, I was wondering what you may use to simulate a man overboard for man overboard drills. I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer to that as long as it floats, right?
Yeah, I mean, a fender, throw cushion, anything like that. I mean, we've done it. We've done it in our classes and stuff. We'll come out here, and it's actually good practice you throw that fender in the water, right? So then it's moving with the current, it's moving with the wind, just like a person's going to be. If they're in the water, they're swimming or doing whatever. And good practice to come up from them from the upwind side or from the downwind side, so you don't get blown over top of them.
Yeah.
So the fender or your man overboard simulators in the water, you want to circle around to where you can kind of nose up, come up to them and get them on the side. You don't want to get pushed over to where the boat can end up, doing more damage, than floating around in the water.
Yeah. It's I don't know if you remember this from when you did your upgrade to your master license, but there was all those commercial guys, all those inspected vessels need to keep a log of all those fire drills, man overboard drills. What are some other ones?
Fire drills, man overboard. Yeah.
They need to keep a log of all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say it's not good practice for recreational guys.
Right. You remember your Williamson turn?
Yes. What is it? How much degrees is it to one side?
I forget. I don't know. It's a figure eight, basically. You come through and you go around and bank back around, and it's going to put you right back in the position.
So you can reciprocate your heading?
Yep.
Yeah. You almost stumped me there real quick. On YouTube here. Got time for one more good one, and then we're going to dive into our questions. I'm going to grill you a little bit, Keith. We got first-time boat owner here, lifetime boater, fisher, however. This is Adam Eckerman. What are some equipment and items that are must-have on boats that might not be obvious? First, Keith, what's in your ditch bag?
Well, you've got your EPIRB and or personal locator beacon.
Right.
Very important, because if your cell phone gets wet or whatever, you can't get hold of somebody if you're out of range. So the EPIRB is going to work through satellite to be able to notify the authorities. Handheld VHF radio, you can talk to somebody, right? Mm-hmm. You've got your all the basics, right? You got your life jackets, you got your throw cushion, flares. Make sure that your flares are in date and good and dry. You got a whistle. I recommend everybody take a whistle and just tie it onto your life jacket. Each life jacket you've got in there. So if you end up in the water, you can, make sound. The little glow sticks, little snap slalom glow sticks, tie those onto your life jackets as well. So it's not a bright sunny day like it is now, but it's, you're coming home from a restaurant at dinner or something, and something happens and you end up in the drink. You can grab your life jacket, you're in the water, even though it's bright orange or bright yellow, it's still going to be dark with no light. So you can break that little glow stick, and then you're sitting out there glowing. And if there's a group of you, it's going to be, really easy to see. I've got a strobe light on my offshore type 1 life jacket. So where if you're going to be in the water for an extended period of time, that's obviously anything you can do to make yourself, more noticeable. As far as like having stuff on your boat that you may not think about.
Yeah, the not so obvious. Paper towels.
Yeah, I mean, a spray water bottle. Keep your electronics clean. Paper towels. A spotlight or a really good heavy duty, flashlight. A knife. So if you happen to get something hung up in your props or whatever, you can, take a knife and untie it or cut it loose. Knives are invaluable. Yeah. Always have a knife on a boat or a razor knife.
You might want to invest in a good set of weather gear too. I swear. And it's like every time I don't bring weather gear, if there's not a cloud in the sky, next thing you know, you're getting rained on, you're miserable.
Yep.
And definitely well worth the investment, especially if it's cold. Good set of boots, maybe foul weather gear, because if your feet are wet, then you're miserable. Feet are wet and cold, and just keep it on the boat.
Stay dry. I mean, we don't have to. I mean, winter time, I mean, we can deal with some hypothermic stuff. But those of you that might be up in Michigan or Wisconsin or LOZ or anywhere, the water's cold. It gets really cold at night, and it doesn't take long for body temps to drop.
No, not at all.
It's one of my favorite TV shows now. What is it? Not Lone Star Law, but what's the one? Northwoods Law. There was the kickoff of that. But they deal with that all the time up there. The Rangers are out there, and what happens to somebody falls out of a canoe or a little boat or something like that, and they get sucked into the current. That's cold water. Yeah. You don't have a long time.
I'm sure. Man, looking back on this, because this wasn't one of those questions that we prepared for. I'm sure as soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm going to be like, I can't believe I didn't remember that. Just little things. There is a neat little trick, though, that I have in Florida about, like, when you're fishing and stuff like that, the sun's baking down on the gel coat, and it's like that 10 minutes, you get any fish blood or whatever
right on
the boat, and it bakes into that, and it's going to take you forever to get it off later, and it's going to be a pain. It's just going to add on to your process. Everybody tired. They want to go home. The guy I fish a lot of tournaments with, he keeps a bucket on the boat, and in that bucket, it's just a bucket of fresh water, or even salt water will do, with just wet rags. They're always wet. Anytime, the second anything hits the deck, takes you 2 seconds. Boom, boom, off, just like that. Takes 2 seconds now. You don't do that. Takes 10 minutes later, and just, keeps the process just that much easier when you get in. Just having a wet rag on the boat to just
wet rag or a deck brush.
Yeah.
Just, real quick, go through. A lot of our whalers and stuff have got the saltwater, raw water wash down.
Yeah.
You may not want to use all your water out of your freshwater tank, but you grab that sprayer, get all the blood, the scales, all that stuff off the boats. Then you come home. Then you're just having to deal with the salt water. Get the salt off the boat.
Man, we got a lot of good questions. Hey, we got John Dunn down here. He just bought one of our Aquila 44 trade-ins, and he's on a trip right now.
Yep.
And he says, what is customary tipping amounts for dock hands in Southwest Florida? I actually don't know the answer to that, and I was a dock hand.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably typical as you're pulling in and they're there, getting your lines, get your shore power cord and stuff ready.
It goes a long way too.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you give them, if you're sitting there for the day or whatever, $20 or something like that, you're going to be there for the full weekend. The dock master, I don't know, $100 or something. It's just, I mean, even in high and dries, right? There's, you got your fork truck driver, you got your dock hands and all that stuff. And before 20 years I've been with MarineMax. Before that, I was at a couple different high and dry marinas. I was the dock master and stuff, and I also ran a fork truck and did all that. And I think I've said this before. I still remember there's this one old timer. His name was Sam. He had a Sea Ray Laguna, but he would come down to the marina damn near every day, right?
Yeah.
But he'd just come down, he'd find a fork truck driver, hand him $1. Well, if he's there 250 days out of the year, here, get yourself a cup of coffee. He'd always say, Sam, thank you, Sam, by the way. See, I still remember you. And versus, sometimes maybe people show up at Christmas with a Christmas card or something like that. And, and it's just, I don't know, it's just the impression. But, take care of the fork truck drivers, take care of your dock hands, and it's kind of like Pavlov's dogs. Here come the Duns. All right. They're going to go run and grab the ice and they're going to do stuff. And they're going to, if your head needs pumped out or whatever, it's a two-way street. Right. So, and it's hot as all get out and they're out there working hard and busting their humps. So, you'll get to know the guys and girls that really take care of you and do the good job.
You never know when you might really need them. If you're coming in on one engine or something
absolutely.
too. So.
Yeah. Lisa Love, why do you call it a ditch bag? Well,
in case you got a
ditch, you got to get out. Everything's in that bag. So instead of, okay, here's my life jacket over here, here's my throw cushion over here, here's this, here's that. Everything's all just in one bag. You've seen us, we'll walk down to the dock, say I'm going to move a customer's boat, or I go down to Naples or Fort Myers to bring a boat. I don't know what equipment's on the boat. I got my bag, I throw it over my shoulder, goes in there, all my stuff's there. If I got to bail out, you grab the bag and you go, and you got everything.
Yeah. I think it's funny too. when you're doing a sea trial or something and you're lugging a ditch bag on the boat, sometimes it'll set people off and be like, whoa, what's in there? Well, life jackets and stuff. Why do we need those? Well, obviously for safety, but we've got dealer boards and stuff in there too if we get pulled over.
Yeah.
And we've been pulled over. I'm sure you've been pulled over plenty of times as well, but you get pulled over. It's just an easy process. Hey, these are my dealer boards. I got life jackets for everybody on board.
Yep.
Noisemaker, up-to-date flares, fire extinguisher. It's all right there. And so you can get on with your business.
Yeah. Cause it's, I don't know where somebody has their stuff stored on their boats and then all that stuff. And something else just kind of dawned on me when you said that about people maybe get put off with life jackets. If you've got guests on board your boat, don't be afraid to let them know where their life jackets are.
Absolutely.
Say, so it's like, okay, we're coming in. Somebody may not be a good swimmer. They may be uncomfortable, but they're just going along because their husband or wife wants to go. Somebody might be apprehensive. So welcome aboard. By the way, lift up the sea cushion. Here are all the life jackets. This is where this is. if you've got a vacuum flush head on your boat, spend the time to show them how it works and what not to flush down that thing, because if only the human waste and the rapidly dissolving marine toilet paper are the only things you need to flush down
They
in
can
there.
be temperamental.
Because otherwise you're going to get something stuck in there, and then the service charge is going to go. I think they charge like 3 times the labor rate if they got to get in there and deal with that stuff. So
For good reason.
It's just, educate your guests, and you're going to have a better day of it too, and so will they.
Yeah. Got one more question before we dive in here, and it's from Ben. He says, "Greetings from Toronto." Wow. Toronto, Canada. How difficult is a small gel coat repair? How long would it typically take with my G23 Nautique? Thanks for your help. Well, we're going to preface this because we are in the middle of the boating season, no matter where you are. Florida, Canada, it is all hands on deck. Bear with your service teams. I know everybody wants their boat right now. They want it fixed right now. Hey, I've got a boat in the service department right now too. They're backed up. Bear with them. If it's just a small gel coat repair and it's not really affecting the boat, use the boat, get it in when you can actually get it repaired. But I mean, it probably doesn't take very long to fix, but getting to it's another problem. I get it. There's a ton of people frustrated right now across the country, but just bear with them because it is the hot and heavy season for everybody.
Yeah, and it's going to depend too. Color match. If you got metal flake in it, trying to make things look, just make them disappear. If it takes a professional, that's these guys that do the glass work guys, the really good ones. It takes a little time. I mean, you just can't throw some Bondo on it and spray it and cover it up and be done with it.
Yeah, exactly. And a funny thing about gel coat and fiberglass is it's very, very, very easy to do, and anybody can do it. Not a lot of people can do it the right way. You know what I mean?
Right.
How many boats do you see out there that are just like, oh man, look at that gel coat job, or look at that fiberglass job.
Yep.
And that drives me nuts. But definitely pay the professionals. But so cool. Let's dive into the Facebook questions here.
You want to hit Dan's question while he's still on here? He just fired off.
Right there at the
with
bottom.
You on the Aquila part of it, yeah.
So he says, how come Aquila doesn't make a hybrid? So they don't make a hybrid. Aquila does not. And I mean, I'm gonna tell you, off the record, on the record, whatever it is, the technology is not. It's just not quite there yet. It's really not. I mean, in theory, it's great. Right now, internal combustion, diesel generator. It's perfected. It has came a very long way, even though it was good for, there's been diesel engines around for decades, but the technology is not quite there yet. I'm not to say in 10 years, you're seeing plenty of stuff in production. You're seeing diesel outboards, you're seeing electric outboards, you're seeing electric engines, you're seeing generators even go away and being replaced by battery banks.
Inverters.
And I think it's great. It's just not quite there. It's like, it's almost there. You see it in cars, you got electric cars.
Yep.
You've got solar powered this, solar powered that, but I just don't think it's right there to create a good product that a company that stands behind their product, like Aquila, like a dealer dealing Aquila, like MarineMax, is going to stand behind, because it's in its infancy.
Yep. It's got to be tried and true and tested and vetted. And, I mean, they maybe have something out there where they're running around and trying this stuff. Yeah. But I mean, it's going to be years they're going to have to, put into the technology to assure that you're going to get the best product, available.
Yeah. I do think it's coming now. Just like on the marine industry, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more and more in that, whether it's at an IBEX show or at a, just reading about it. I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah. Well, he's saying it's, basically said we're BS, but he says Green Line's been making hybrids for over 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you can DM me and we'll have a conversation about that all together, and we'll put that one to bed. So
there you
go. Cool. Moving on. First of all, gonna fire off a few questions here, Keith. We've got. Let's see. Let's talk about different ways to store your boat. A lot of people are fortunate enough, especially in Florida, where you've got a lift right behind your house, and you really can't beat that, right? You've got lift right behind your house, your own lift fob, and come and go as you please. Keep an eye on your boat. However, that's not the case for a ton of people. So let's talk about the different options that you have here. First, let's talk about the most obvious. We already talked about it. Your high and dries, probably the most popular.
Yep.
Relatively easy to get into. You've got pretty much a full service center with a place that'll store your boat for you, put it in and out of the water for you. But there are a few downsides. There are a few limitations at a high and dry, such as, you're not going to have a guy there launching a boat at midnight if you wanted to go out on it.
No, you just got to make sure that, call ahead of time.
Exactly.
Right. And just, plan accordingly. Call ahead of time, make sure the boat gets launched. And story goes way back the early mid 80s. I was running a fork truck at Largo Intercoastal Marina over here on the Intercoastal. And there was this guy fishing the Kingfish tournament, and he would not leave his boat in the water overnight. Right. So it's like, okay, so he paid me a little something on the side. Right. and the boat had to be in the barn. So I had the fork truck set up with the forks right underneath the boat on a rack in a thing. So all I did was went down there at like 3 a.m, open up the barn doors, pitch black, lift the boat straight up, go out, boom, splash it, and put it in the water.
Oh,
right?
really?
So he's like, okay, cool, pull it back out, go park it, close up. And I went to breakfast or whatever. Well, then some other people well, that's pretty cool. Next thing you know, there's like 3 or 4 people doing it. And then all of a sudden he gets all twisted because I'm charging them too. And he's like, well, I'm paying you to do you're double dipping and all that stuff. But anyway, it was pretty funny, but how some people are, they're very particular.
Yeah.
And he would not allow that boat to sit in the water, overnight. So we worked around it, but I just thought I still think about it. That's pretty funny.
High and dry is a great option.
Yeah.
The big downside that we see here in Florida, a lot of times in the springtime, you call those high and dries and there's a wait list for them. But it's definitely worth calling around because there's always people falling on and off, especially when they're carrying that much volume that you'll see at some of these bigger marinas. Also, I have noticed on my side of things, if you try to get that slip squared away in the wintertime or maybe in the fall, you might have a better shot if you didn't have that shot in the spring or the summer with them having some openings and stuff like that.
Yep.
And get that all taken care of. But
squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So stay on them, call, maybe go to the marina and take a walk through, go visit, go shake the dock master's hand, and see what you can do. High and dry, great option, right? For the most part, you're in and out of the weather too. If it's a closed barn, some of them are open a little bit to the elements, so you get a little bit of sun. But you come back in after hours, you pull the boat up, tie up the dock, you take your keys, you drop them in a drop box, you forget about it, you walk away. Most of these now will flush the engines out for you, rinse the boat off, and do all that and put the boat away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one downside to it is if you've got a boat that's very voltage sensitive and stuff like that, you can't keep the boat plugged in. So a lot of them now even have lifts at these. They were just used to be strictly high and dry marina or a wet slip marina. Now a lot of these wet slip marinas are going and putting lifts in. So now you can still come and go now as you please on your own time frame. You can get your boat in, put it up on the lift, you plug into shore power, and then you turn your battery charger on, and then you've got your battery tender going and all that. So you don't, if the boat sat for a month or so, you don't have to go down there and be like, oh gosh, am I going to deal with a low battery here or something like that?
Yeah, it could definitely be frustrating too. Another question that we actually had from Instagram was about finding your marina to dock your boat. What is the average cost and fees? Well, a lot of that's going to be area dependent as well. Like we're talking about, like your own lift's probably going to cost more than a high and dry that might charge per foot.
Yeah, but it's more labor intensive to keep it in the high and dry. You've got you got to pay the fork truck driver, you got to pay for the fork truck, you got to pay for the storage barn and all that.
Yep, and definitely there's a couple ways to store it. It's going to depend on the area for the cost. There's your larger boats are going to be kept in wet slips, as we call them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably have a tough time. A lot of marinas can't haul boats over 40 feet, call it. with a fork truck. Some
Right.
can. I mean,
Yeah.
you got Marker One who's got a big
Yeah.
big fork truck now, but those boats are going to be kept in the water, so you're going to need a bottom cleaner, a scuba diver to come underneath the boat and kind of clean it once a month. But this time of year, do you recommend going to twice a month or what?
Probably if you're in an area with a lot of good current flow where the barnacles have got a food source, you know, they tend to grow a little bit faster with moving water. But and it's going to improve your performance too. So if you've got a pod boat, it's real important because you need to keep the props and the pods themselves clean because the bottom paint won't adhere to those. So yeah, every couple weeks in the summertime, have a diver come through there and just, you know, rub everything off. Wintertime, when the water temps, you know, cool down a little bit, you know, you can get away with every month or so.
Yeah. Also keep up with your bottom paint too. It's amazing. Like some of these boats that really need a bottom job, they're not going to hold up as well as a set of fresh bottom that's just going to have everything knocked right off.
Right.